Once upon a time, Joha had a neighbor who was incredibly stingy. This neighbor never invited anyone over, and never treated his guests well. Joha, always known for his cleverness and sense of humor, decided to teach his neighbor a lesson in generosity. One day, Joha sat in front of his house and lit a large fire. He placed a pot over the fire and filled it with water. As the water began to heat, he started throwing stones into the pot. Curious, people gathered around him and asked what he was doing. Joha cheerfully said, "I'm making a delicious meal from stones." As Joha continued his unusual cooking, his stingy neighbor walked by and couldn't resist asking, "Joha, what are you doing?" Joha replied, "I'm making a delightful meal from stones." The neighbor laughed and said, "Can I taste some of this amazing meal?" Joha smiled and said, "Of course, but to make it truly delicious, I need some additional ingredients." The neighbor, intrigued, asked, "What do you need?" Joha replied, "A little oil, some salt, and a few vegetables would be perfect." The neighbor, eager to see what would happen, ran to his house and brought back some oil, salt, and vegetables. Joha added these to the pot and said, "It's getting better, but it would be even more delicious with a piece of meat." Without hesitation, the neighbor fetched a piece of meat. Joha added it to the pot, and after a while, he announced that the meal was ready. Joha, the neighbor, and everyone who had gathered around enjoyed the meal until they were full. After they finished eating, the neighbor asked Joha, "Where are the stones you were cooking?" Joha laughed and said, "My dear neighbor, the stones were just a trick." The real lesson here is that sharing and generosity can bring joy and satisfaction to everyone. The neighbor, understanding the lesson, said, "Thank you, Joha. I've learned to be more generous from now on." From that day on, Joha's neighbor became known for his newfound generosity, and Joha continued to spread wisdom and laughter with his clever antics.